Hey everyone, Mr. Hark here.
Control, this is 66. We have a visual on the target. Looks like a large creature. It's dragging a body into the woods.
What you're about to hear is based on real helicopter footage captured over a remote stretch of Alaska. A pilot and his passenger were just trying to get from one point to another when they spotted movement in a clearing below, and then saw something dragging a body toward the trees. They dropped lower to confirm what they were seeing. And that's the moment everything shifted from a sighting to a fight to survive. I'm not going to spoil what happens next. If you're ready for the full story, stick with me. Like, subscribe, and share this with anyone who still says Bigfoot isn't real. Alright, let's start. I destroyed the kind of footage people spend their whole lives chasing. I snapped the memory card in my hands and dropped it in the mud while something washed from the trees. I know how that sounds, but when we went back to check what we saw in that Alaska clearing, survival mattered more than proof. This was Alaska. I was in my mid-40s then. I'd been flying bush helicopters long enough to see dumb things turn into funerals. That valley, that day, that decision, it cost me more than my license. I can live with people saying I'm full of it. What I can't live with is lying about what I saw or about why I walked away. So I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened, as straight as I can. You can decide what to do with it. I'm Jack. I flew utility and charter ops out of South Central Alaska for most of my adult life. Sling loads, hunters, biologists, the odd rescue. If it fit in a helicopter and the check cleared, I'd probably hauled it at some point. I wasn't special, just steady. That was my whole thing. I stayed out of bars, kept my logbooks clean, didn't scare passengers for fun. My reputation was simple: Jack won't showboat, Jack won't drink on duty, Jack will tell you no before the mountain does. By the time this happened, I'd already buried a couple friends to weather and bad choices. I carried that around. You do long enough in that world, you can almost feel the thin line between close call and airframe recovery. Sitting in your chest makes you boring at parties. Makes you good in a cockpit. I live pretty quiet. Little rental house, old truck, more tools than furniture, no wife, one grown daughter down in the lower 48. I didn't see enough. Most days were just wake up, check weather, fly, eat, sleep. Sometimes I'd hear about hikers going missing or hunters not coming back. You note the names, shake your head, maybe help in the search if they call you. And then you go fly the next day. If you let yourself feel everyone too much, you don't last. The job that started it was nothing special on paper. Our dispatcher, Maya, called me into the office one morning. She had that look like she'd already argued with someone before I walked in. Got a journalist wants a charter, she said. Says it's about missing hunters. Wants remote valleys, off the road system. She's already cleared payment. I remember I actually rolled my eyes. We got those sometimes. Folks wanting to film life on the frontier usually meant extra weight in camera gear and someone standing in the skid door trying to get a nice shot while I'm fighting wind. How long? I asked. Half day, she said. Weather's marginal but workable. You stay south of the big stuff, I'm comfortable with it. She's flexible on exact route. I checked the forecast. Low ceiling, light rain, freezing levels higher than we'd be flying. Wind not terrible. It was one of those days where you tell your buddy, yeah, we can go, just don't be stupid. Name? I asked. Lena Park, she said. Says she's got trooper contacts. Been following some cases. Wants cockpit footage, valley shots, that kind of thing. I shrugged. A charter's a charter. I figured we'd do a couple passes over some drainages. She'd get her moody cloud shots, maybe interview me for 5 minutes about weather and risk. Thought that'd be the end of it. Lena showed up with 2 Pelican cases, a small pack, and eyes that didn't stop moving. She was in her 30s, I guess. Dark hair pulled back, layered clothes, worn boots that had actually seen real ground. Not one of these Alaska for Instagram types. No makeup, no bullshit. You're Jack? She asked, holding out a hand. Yeah, I said. You're the one chasing ghosts. That got the first little grin out of her. Missing hunters, she said. Ghosts are extra. She moved efficient. Strapped in without complaining about the harness, listened while I gave the safety brief. But she filmed everything. Me pointing out the exits, me talking about the fuel shut off. I'm not used to a lens 3 feet from my face when I'm talking emergency procedures. You really need that? I asked when she kept rolling. People like to see how close they came to dying, she said, not looking up from the viewfinder. Makes them pay attention. I didn't like that line, but I let it go. Maya pulled me aside before we lifted. "Remember your fuel," she said under her breath. "Weather's supposed to come down earlier than they thought. Cache on the far side's full, but I don't want you stretching." That mattered. Our plan was to hop valleys, then end up at a little fuel cache by an old mining strip, top off there, and come home. On a clear day, it's a nice loop. On a day like that, it's a series of small wagers with the sky. I nodded, filed that feeling away, and cranked up. The first hour was routine. We ran down the river, then cut up into smaller side valleys. Ceiling was lower than forecast, but still workable. Maybe 1,000 feet AGL at first. A soft rain tapping at the bubble. The kind of flying I'd done hundreds of times, following contours, always with one eye on an out. Lena's camera was on pretty much the whole time. She set one GoPro-style thing up in the corner of the cockpit, pointed forward, catching the panel and the windscreen. The other she kept in her hands, getting little side shots, me talking, the valley. "What exactly are you looking for?" I asked at one point when we had a steady stretch. "Patterns," she said. "Guys who go out well-equipped, who know the country and just vanish. Most of them are written off as bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. I've got tips that some of them weren't accidents, that they were chasing something." "Like what?" I asked. I knew, but I wanted to hear her say it. She hesitated, then shrugged. "Proof," she said. "Photos. Video. There's a little group that's been poking around one valley in particular, trying to catch something on camera. They talk about it like a game. But now one of them is missing. Another one's dead, officially bear attack. And that's just the ones on paper." I snorted. "You think they found Bigfoot?" I said, half joking. She didn't laugh. "I think they pissed something off," she said. "And I think whatever it is, it doesn't care about our rules." I went quiet after that, not because I believed her. Not yet, but because I've heard enough stories up there to know you don't throw certain things around for fun. You call it superstition, sure, but you still don't camp where the old-timers say not to. About 90 minutes in, the weather started to close in for real. We were cutting through a narrower valley, heading toward the one she'd circled on her map. Ceiling dropped from kind of annoying to pay attention in maybe 10 minutes. We hit a shelf of low cloud that forced me down closer to the terrain that I liked. I kept the tone calm when I called it back to her. "All right, Lena, we're gonna have to adjust," I said. "Ceiling's dropping. If it keeps coming down, we might have to skip your main valley and go straight to the fuel." She leaned forward, peering past me. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Weather doesn't care how bad you want your story," I said. "We play by its rules or we don't play." I heard her camera still whirring behind me. That forward GoPro thing was running too. Red light blinking, catching the panel, the wipers, the gray air ahead. Maya came over the radio around then. 6-9er Hotel. "What's your ceiling?" she asked. "About 800 AGL and trending down," I said. "Light rain, visibility 2, maybe 3 miles in the clear spots. We're still good, but I'm watching it." "Copy," she said. "Keep me posted on any changes. And remember your fuel numbers. I want you at that cache with reserve, not arriving on a prayer." That was Maya. Friendly, but she could wrap a lecture in 3 words. Lena tapped my shoulder. "If we just poke our nose into that valley," she said, pointing at the GPS, "we don't have to stay long. Just one pass. If it's bad, we bail." "That's not how this works," I said. "Once we go in, we need a way out. I'm not flying you into a cul-de-sac with cloud dropping behind us." She sat back, frustrated. I felt it. I've felt that from a lot of passengers. They think the helicopter is magic. It's not. It's just another machine that the weather can kill. We came around a bend and the valley she wanted started to open up to the left. A wide U-shape, river braided through gravel bars, darker bands of timber on both sides. Ceiling there actually looked a hair better, maybe 900, 1,000 feet. The kind of gap you get some days where one place is less bad than everywhere else. I called it. "All right," I said, "we can make one pass up the main line, stay over the river where I've got options. If it closes in, we're done. Understood?" She nodded. Camera up again, little red light blinking. That was the decision that put us there at that exact time. The sighting itself was plain. That's the part I keep coming back to. It wasn't a big musical moment. There was no swell of feeling, no slow motion nonsense. It was just another thing in the world inside the frame of my windscreen. We were maybe 500 feet up, following the river. I remember the drizzle streaking sideways across the glass, the wipers squeaking every so often, the panel humming along. It was just work. I noticed the orange first. Bright orange on the ground where there shouldn't be anything that color. Not a tarp, not a tent. It was moving. "Hold on," I said, not even sure who I was talking to. I nudged the cyclic, lined us up a little better. The GoPro had the whole thing. I know because I watched it later frame by frame before I broke it. Right dead ahead, slightly right of center in the windscreen, there was a clearing. Not a big meadow. More like a scoured patch where the river had flooded and then dropped back, leaving gravel and low grass. On the far side of that, about 10 yards from the tree line, was a dark, upright figure. It was tall. Taller than any person I've seen on foot from that height. Broad shoulders, long arms, dark, wet-looking hair hanging off it. I can't give you an exact height because I didn't have a measuring stick. All I can tell you is, my brain flagged it as wrong size before anything else. In one of its hands, it was dragging a man. The man wore an orange top, jacket or hoodie. Hard to tell from above, in the mist. He was limp. One arm up over his head at an angle that didn't look right, his legs trailing. His head bumped the ground now and then, the way a bag of sand would, not like someone trying to stand. The big figure had its hand clamped around the man's wrist or forearm, just hauling him, not struggling, not glancing back, just walking in a straight line toward the trees, steady as a guy pulling a sled. "I have a visual on, Jesus," I said. I heard my own voice on the recording later. Flat, then a low crack on that last word. "What?" Lena asked, leaning up so hard her harness straps bit into my shoulder. "In the clearing," I said. 10 o'clock. "Tell me you see that." She swung her camera, fighting the wash on the plexiglass. You can hear the little bump of the lens hitting the side window. Then nothing for a second. Then she just breathed out, "Oh my God." The helicopter didn't care. Engine stayed smooth, rotor at the same RPM. Life went on. The figure kept walking. It reached the tree line without ever looking up at us. That's what haunts me. We were making noise. We were right there, and it did not care. Not in any way I recognized. It never sped up, never slowed down, never dragged the body harder like it was annoyed. Just this steady, heavy walk. You could see the shoulders roll a little with each step. You could see the orange sleeve jerk with the motion. The man's body disappeared into the brush one limb at a time. That orange, it just went away. Swallowed by green and brown, and then both of them were gone. No drama, no roar. Just empty clearing again. The whole thing took maybe 10 seconds. People always ask what I felt at that moment. Fear came later. The first thing was confusion. My brain did this weird flicker where it tried to slot what I'd seen into something normal. Big guy in a ghillie suit, moose dragging a jacket, anything but what it looked like. And then the training kicked in. Not monster hunter training, just basic aircrew stuff. "Marking this position," I said. I hit the GPS button, dropped a waypoint right where the clearing was. Then I grabbed the radio. "Maya, 6-9er Hotel," I said, keeping my voice as level as I could. "We've got a possible deceased person sighted from the air, remote location. Attempting quick confirm." There was about 2 seconds of silence. That doesn't sound like much. On the radio, "It's forever." 6-9er Hotel, say again, she said. "Possible deceased person," I repeated. "Adult male. Last seen being dragged toward tree line by an unknown subject." I swear you can hear the air leave the room back at base when she answers. "Unknown subject," she said. "I'm going to see if I can safely land near the clearing," I said. "We are within fuel plan, but I will not be able to loiter. Ceiling is dropping. Copy, 6-9er," she said, voice a little tighter. "Any sign of a bear?" I looked at the empty clearing, the drag marks, the wet grass. "Negative on bear at this time," I said. "Will advise." While that was happening, Lena was still filming. I could see the little red light reflected in the window. She'd gone very quiet. Her breathing was louder than her voice. "You can't just fly away," she said finally. "He might be alive." "We have to check." "I know," I said. "I'm working on it." Here's the math I was doing in my head. Fuel, enough to do a quick landing and then make it to the cache with reserve. Not enough to screw around. The valley, Weather better here than the last one, but ceiling still dropping. Terrain, I had one, maybe two possible landing spots in sight that weren't right up against the trees. Risk, unknown thing on the ground that could be anything from a grizzly to some tweaked-out guy with a rifle to whatever my gut was whispering it actually was. I could have called troopers and just orbited until I burned to bingo and then left. That's the safe move. It's also the move where, if that guy on the ground was somehow still alive, I'd have to live with leaving him. In the end, what made the decision for me wasn't Lena begging, or my curiosity, or the thing in the trees. It was simple. I've been the guy who found bodies days later. I've walked up on what was left. It stays with you. I couldn't look at that orange jacket going into the trees and not at least try to see if there was a pulse. I'm going to put us down, I told Maya. Short landing, rotors remain turning. I repeat, rotors remain turning. I am not shutting down. Copy, she said quietly. Marking your last position. Check in the second your skids touch. I eased us around in a circle, scanning for the best patch. There was a gravel bar upstream, far enough from the trees that I'd have room to lift out even if I lost a bit of tail authority. Not perfect, good enough. I dropped us in there like we had a bomb on board. On the ground, noise changes. People think the helicopter is loud inside. It is, but it's a kind of steady loud. White noise. When you land and leave the rotor spooling, that sound sinks into your bones. The air feels heavy. The machine feels fragile in a new way because it's not doing what it's built for anymore. I kept it at flight idle, collective down. The tail rotor was about 20 yards from the nearest brush. Any closer, and I wouldn't have stepped out. I turned to Lena. Listen carefully, I said. We are not here to chase anything into the woods. We are here to confirm status on that man and get back in the air. You stay within 10 yards of the skids. You do not go near the tree line. You do not point anything, gun or camera, at that brush like you're hunting. You got it? She nodded too fast. I got it, she said. I swear, I'll stay by the skids. I didn't trust her, but we were past the point of perfect choices. I unclipped, grabbed my small med kit, and stepped out into the rain. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Wet earth, sure, but under that the metallic tang of blood. Not a lot. Not like a slaughterhouse. Just enough that your brain notes it before your eyes do. The second thing were the drag marks. They started near where the body had gone into the trees and came straight across the clearing toward us. Two parallel lines of flattened grass and scraped dirt, with little darker patches here and there where something had leaked and mixed with the rain. I walked along them, counting my pace, keeping half an eye on the timber. Lena trailed me, filming. I could hear the camera motor, hear her shoes squelch in the wet ground. The rotor wash pushed at our backs like impatient hands. We got to the edge of the clearing where the drag marks first came out of the trees. That's where I expected the body to be. Maybe he'd been dropped or left in a heap. Instead, he was laid out just inside the line. Like he'd been carried out, set down, and positioned. He was on his back, arms at weird angles. One leg bent in a way legs don't bend. Face turned half toward us. I didn't need more than a second to know he was gone. Still, I'm not the coroner. I knelt, checked for a carotid. Nothing. Skin cold and slack under my fingers. His eyes were half open. There was mud in his lashes. Male, no pulse, no respirations, I called out, more for the recording than for anyone else. Old habit. Trauma present. His chest and ribs, they weren't right. Not torn like a bear mauling. I've seen those. Those looked like something tried to eat you. This looked more like he'd been snapped. I could see where the fabric was stretched in odd shapes over broken bone. His shoulder on the side that had been dragged was crushed, not chewed, not clawed, pressed. Is he? Lena started. He's gone, I said. We're not saving him. She swallowed hard, camera still up. I could see her hands shaking now. She zoomed down the length of the body, then up to his face. There was a name patch velcroed to his chest rig. Riker. A little laminated tag stuck behind it with his full name and emergency contact, like some of the more squared-away guys carry. I checked his pockets. Quick, practical. I wasn't looting him. I was looking for ID to give to troopers. Wallet, license, a phone that had no bars here, and a small digital camera clipped to his chest. It was on. Little green light blinking. Screen blacked out to save power. I hit playback without really thinking. The last image popped up, grainy, low light. A tree trunk with fresh blood smeared on the bark. Next image, hair, coarse, dark strands stuck to something. Next, a shape half in the frame. Dark, hunched form behind some brush, one arm up like it was guarding itself. The flash had caught an eye that reflected back oddly. The thing looked, cornered, then another shot, closer, too close. You could almost feel the fear through the lens. Whoever took it was right up on that thing, close enough to touch it if they'd reached out. The last photo was blurred, like the camera had been yanked sideways. I backed out, stomach tight. He was chasing it, Lena said, peering over my shoulder at the tiny screen. Jesus, he was right on top of it. He was doing more than that, I said. I looked around him again. That's when I saw the rest of his gear. There was a small syringe kit lying open by his pack. Needles, little vials. One vial half full of cloudy liquid. Next to it, a broken Trenka dart. The kind you might use on livestock or big game if you were trying to take it alive. Not legal for just anyone to have out here. And at his belt, tied with paracord, was a small bundle. Hair. Coarse, dark hair wrapped around something hard. A tooth or a claw fragment, I couldn't tell. It was tied like a trophy, like something you'd show your buddies later. My stomach turned in a new direction. He hadn't just stumbled into something. He'd been hunting it, tagging it, taking pieces. "You're seeing this, right?" I said quietly. Lena's eyes were locked on the bundle. "Oh my God," she whispered. She sounded half sick and half excited. "This is it. This is what they were doing. Jack, this is the story." "It's a crime scene," I said. "That's what it is. And we're standing in the middle of it with my helicopter running." She swung her camera back toward the trees. "Just a few steps further," she said. "If I can see where the drag marks go in." "Lena," I cut in. "Stop. We've seen enough. He's dead. We have evidence he was doing illegal shit. We have blood. We have your cockpit footage. We're leaving." She shook her head. "You don't get it," she said. "This proves something's out here that isn't just a bear. Look at his injuries. Look at the photos. If we get one clean shot of it." "We don't need a clean shot of it," I said, louder than I meant to. "We need to not die in this clearing." Somewhere in that back and forth, she picked up his rifle. I didn't see it at first. I was watching the tree line. But when she took a step past the line of the drag marks, toward the brush, I heard the rattle of a sling. I glanced over and there she was, Riker's rifle hanging from her hands. Muzzle pointed down, finger off the trigger, but it was still a gun. "What are you doing?" I snapped. "Protection," she said. "I'm not going into those trees unarmed." "You're not going into those trees at all," I said. "And walking around with that like you own the place is the opposite of protection. Put it down." She took another step, just one, but it was like the whole valley inhaled at the same time. I don't know how else to explain what happened next. There was a single heavy knock from the tree line, not a little twig snap, not a random branch falling. A deep, solid crack like someone hit a trunk with a baseball bat. You felt it in your chest more than your ears. Then, a heartbeat later, there was another knock from our right. Same sound, different spot. Far enough away that whatever made it would have had to move faster than I can run to get there in time. Lena froze. The rifle dipped. The camera trembled in her other hand. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said. My mouth had gone dry. The brush ahead of us moved. Not like a squirrel. Not like wind. Branches shifted, then went still. Nothing stepped out. Nothing roared. But every hair on my arm stood up. "Lena, back to the helicopter," I said quietly. "Now, we are done." She started to back up, small steps, still filming. Her boots slid a little in the mud. The rotor wash pushed our jackets against our bodies. The river noise seemed far away. Everything honed down to that dark wall of trees. Then something hit the helicopter. It wasn't a little tap. It was a solid impact on the tail boom. You know the sound of your own machine. You know what's normal. This wasn't normal. There was a metallic crack you could hear even over the rotor, followed by a change in vibration I felt through the soles of my feet. The tail started to buzz in a way that made my stomach drop. "Move," I shouted. I grabbed Lena by the harness and hauled her toward the skids. The rifle bounced against her side. A second later, something else came out of the trees. Not a body, a rock, or a thick piece of wood. It hit the ground hard near the skid, bounced, and smacked into one of the struts with a hollow bang. No damage I could see, but if that same thing had hit higher, or hit the disc, we'd be done. It wasn't random. It wasn't debris from the rotor. It came from the trees, on a straight line. They weren't trying to kill us. They were adjusting our behavior. I shoved Lena up into the helicopter, then clambered in behind her, keeping one eye on the tree line. I caught a glimpse then, just for a second. Between two trunks, maybe 30 yards back, something tall was standing. Dark, broad, not moving, arms at its sides. The juvenile shape, I'm calling it that because I don't have a better term, was lower, behind its leg. I saw a smaller form, one arm wrapped up against its body like it hurt, two eyes reflecting a tiny bit of gray light. They were just looking at us. I don't know if it was the same one that dragged Riker. I don't know if there were more. I just know I felt watched in a way I've never felt in a cockpit before or since. And in that moment, I understood something simple. They wanted us to leave. They were holding the helicopter hostage. They'd shown us what happens to people who come in armed and take trophies. I dropped into my seat, strapped in with hands that felt a little numb, and brought the power up. The vibration was still there. Tailboom didn't feel happy, but we were within limits. For the moment, Maya, 69er Hotel, I called. We've confirmed one deceased male on the ground, named Riker, heavy trauma. There is unknown large wildlife activity in the area. We are taking light structural hits on the tail. I am departing the area now. There was some static, then her voice. 69er, are you declaring an emergency? She asked. Negative for now, I said. But we're leaving. I should have done it then, just flown out, gone to the cache, and dealt with the aftermath. But something in me held. The bundle, the rifle, the camera with those images. The way that big shape was just standing there, waiting to see what we did. I looked at Lena. Her face was pale. She still had the camera in her hands. Riker's rifle was half on the floor, half on her lap, barrel pointed toward the trees now. We can't take that with us, I said. What? She said, blinking. The gun, I said, and his trophies, and that footage. Not if we want to get out of here in one piece. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You're talking about the biggest evidence of my career, she said. We have them on camera, Jack. We have the drag, we have the body, we have the photos from his camera. We have the knocks. Do you understand what this means? I do, I said. I also understand that we are sitting in a shaky helicopter with something out there that just threw a rock hard enough to dent steel. They don't like people coming in here armed and taking pieces. We leave with the proof of what they are. We're not getting off this gravel bar. You don't know that, she said. You're right, I said. I don't, but I believe it. And I'm the one flying this thing. I'd like to tell you I had a clear, noble thought at that point. I didn't. I just had this deep, animal sense that we were in someone else's house, and that the only way we left alive was to act like it. I unbuckled again, went back outside into the wash. The knocks had stopped. The trees were still. The tall shape was gone from where I'd seen it. For a second, I wondered if I'd imagined it. Then I saw the shadow of something further off, between different trunks. They'd moved, watching from a new angle. I walked over to the body and took the trophy bundle off his belt. It felt wrong in my hand. Like holding something you took from a grave. I carried it to the edge of the drag marks. Not deep into the trees, but closer than before. I set it down on a rock, open. Not like an offering, more like, here, we're not keeping this. Then I went back and grabbed the rifle from the cabin. Lena lunged for it. Jack, don't, she said. Are you out of your mind? I'm not flying out with this pointed at their woods, I said. End of story. I walked a good distance away from the body in the helicopter, toward the riverside where the mud was deep. I took the rifle by the barrel and jammed the muzzle straight into the muck until it clogged. Then I laid it down, stalked toward the river, very clear of any aim at the trees. It felt stupid and symbolic and small, but when I straightened up and looked back, I swear the woods seemed less tight, like a rubber band that had been flicked and then let go. Last was the footage. I climbed back in, sat facing Lena. Give me the card, I said, holding out my hand. No, she said. Absolutely not. I'll keep the part that shows his illegal gear, I said. The trank, the trophy bundle, the body. You'll still have your hunter story. But the creature footage goes. The drag shot goes. The close-ups on his camera go. We take those, they'll follow us, one way or another. You can't honestly believe that, she said. I can, I said. And I do. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. All the respect she'd had for my experience, all the little nods and smiles earlier, it turned into something else. Anger. Betrayal. This is my life, she said quietly. You're asking me to throw it away on a superstition. I'm asking you to not die for a clip, I said. You want to think of it another way? Fine. Think about the next idiots this footage brings in. Guys like Riker. Only more of them. All armed. You want that on you? That landed somewhere. I saw it. She hesitated, eyes flicking to the trees, then to the body, then back to me. The public has a right to know, she said weakly. The public has a right to stay out of this valley, I said. Hand me the card. She held my stare for a long moment. Then she finally pulled the camera off its mount and thumbed open the little door. The SD card was wet around the edges from the mist but still intact. She held it like it was her child, then slapped it into my hand. If you break this, I will never forgive you, she said. That's better than you never getting off this gravel bar, I said. My hands shook a little when I did it. I'll admit that. I'm not some stoic hero. I was scared, and I was making the biggest professional mistake of my life, and I knew it. But I did it anyway. I snapped the card once. It just bent. The second time, it went. Little cracked plastic and silicone. I broke it a couple more times for good measure, then opened my hand over the mud outside and let the bits fall. The rain hit them. They sank. For a second I thought I heard something, a low sound from the trees. Not a growl, not a word. Just this rumble, like a distant truck. Then it stopped. We kept the card from Riker's camera. That one I didn't destroy. I just pulled the battery so it wouldn't record over itself and stuck it in a zip pocket. I had this idea that troopers might want to see what he'd been doing. Maybe they'd take it seriously if it came from him, not me. All right, I said when I got back in and buckled. Let's go home. I pulled power. The helicopter rose off the gravel. The tail was still buzzing, but not any worse. As we climbed out and banked away from the tree line, I half expected another rock, another hit. Nothing came. The trees just sat there. Dark, patient. They'd made their point. We'd listened. That was the deal. We made it to the fuel cache on fumes. I called it in as minimum fuel, not an emergency, but close enough to make Maya chew her lip on the other end. Rain followed us the whole way. The vibration in the tail stayed, a constant hum reminding me that we'd been slapped. The old mining strip where the cache sat was just a scratched-out line in the tundra with a couple drums chained to rebar. I set us down gentle, taxied as little as possible. When I rolled the throttle down and finally let the rotor spin out, the quiet felt wrong. A mechanic would later tell me we'd taken a good solid whack to part of the tail structure. Not enough to break anything crucial, but enough that if I'd stayed in that valley, taking more hits, we might be telling a different story. There was already a trooper plane parked off to the side, which I didn't love. Someone had been in the area for something else. I didn't know yet that something else was a missing persons ping not too far from the valley we'd just left. A state trooper in a rain shell walked over as we climbed out. He looked like every trooper I've ever met up there. Tired eyes, square shoulders, polite in a way that still lets you know you're being evaluated. "Mercer?" he said. "Yeah," I said. "We radioed in a deceased hunter. You Riker's contact, or is this coincidence?" He blinked. "You have Riker?" he said. "You've seen him?" "Seen what's left," I said. "He's at the coordinates Maya has. Big trauma. You'll need body bags and some strong stomachs." He looked past me at the tail boom. "What happened there?" he asked. "Unknown object struck us while we were on the ground," I said. "Twice. I've reported it as wildlife interaction. I suggest you treat that area as hostile." He cocked his head. "Bear?" he said. I almost said yes. It would have been so easy to just say bear. "Big one, real pissed, and let that be the story. But I'd already made one big choice. Might as well keep going." "Something large," I said carefully. "Upright when we saw it from the air. Dark. Dragging Riker's body to the tree line. It did not behave like a bear, sir." He stared at me for a good long moment. You're serious, he said. Deadly, I said, then winced at my own word choice. I know how it sounds. I also know what I saw. Lena stepped forward then, voice a little shaky but strong. I have cockpit footage, she started, then remembered. Her eyes flicked to me with pure hatred for half a second. I had footage, she corrected. We saw it dragging him. We heard knocks. We got hit on the ground. Riker had a trank kit and a trophy bundle. He was hunting something. He got punished. The trooper looked between us like he was trying to decide if we were pranking him. You destroyed the footage? He asked me. I destroyed the part that showed the creature, I said. I have not destroyed evidence of illegal hunting. I have photos from Riker's own camera that show him harassing something at close range. I'll turn that over. Why would you do that? He asked. Destroy the one thing that could back up what you're saying? Because I want to keep people out of that valley, I said. Not bring them in with guns and GoPros. He didn't like that answer. I could see it. To his mind, information is control. Evidence is power. A state cop's job is to gather facts, not burn them. You understand you're open to charges for destruction of evidence, he said. Yes, sir, I said. I'll sign whatever statement you need. I'll tell you everything I saw, but I will not give you a map with monster lives here circled in red. You want the body. You have the coordinates. That's what I'm required to provide. He breathed out slowly, then looked past me at Lena. Is he telling it straight? He asked her. She hesitated. For a second, I thought she'd throw me under the bus. Tell him I lost my mind. Tell him I'd snapped the card without warning. In the end, she nodded. He did what he said, she said. He thinks he saved our lives. I think he destroyed the proof of the century. But he's not lying about what we saw. That was the last time she backed me up on anything. Back at base, it got worse. The company owner wasn't happy about a damaged tail boom and an off-plane landing. Insurance wasn't happy about unknown wildlife impact. The FAA, when they got wind of it, wanted to know why I deviated from the original route and why my fuel numbers finished so low. Maya did what she could. She backed my weather calls. She told them I'd been giving her honest updates. But there's only so much paperwork can handle when you write struck by unknown upright creature throwing objects from tree line in your narrative. The troopers took Riker's body out the next day with another crew. I didn't fly that one. Mechanic had my bird half apart by then, checking for hidden cracks. When they reported back, the official line was fatal encounter with wildlife. They noted his illegal gear. They noted the strange trauma patterns. They did not mention anything on two legs. I turned over Riker's camera. I sat in the little office and watched a detective scroll through the photos one by one. You could see his face go from bored to puzzled to uneasy. You sure you didn't doctor this? He asked. Do I look like I have time to Photoshop a myth into a dead man's SD card? I said. He grunted. These could be staged, he said. Guy in a suit, someone behind a bush. You see how this looks, right? No body, no tracks, just some weird pictures and a busted tail. I know how it looks, I said. I also know you've had missing hunter reports in that valley the past couple years. You know the names. I heard them on the radio before. He stiffened a little at that. They don't like you knowing their numbers. We're not here to talk about other cases, he said. We're here to talk about why you landed off plan and destroyed your own footage. So we did, over and over. For hours, same questions, different angles. Did you drink that day? No. Did you take any meds? No. Did Lena pressure you into going further than you were comfortable with? Yes, but I still made the choice. Did you feel threatened? Yes. By what? Something that could make that knock and throw that rock. In the end, they wrote it up in the blandest words you can imagine. Pilot believes large unknown animal may have been involved. Potentially aggressive wildlife behavior. Recommend area be approached with caution. No one used the word I knew they were thinking. No one put Sasquatch in ink. My company suspended me pending review. That's a polite way of saying, go home, we'll see if this blows over. My phone stopped ringing with charter requests. Maya still checked in on me, but even she sounded different. Like she didn't know which version of the story to believe. Lena? She went the other way. About a week after, a clip showed up online. Just a few seconds long. Cockpit footage. You could see the panel, my hands on the controls, the windscreen, the gray valley ahead. Then, in the far part of the frame, a blurry dark shape moving across a clearing, dragging something orange. Then it cut out. No audio, no context. Just enough to make people sit up and say, "What the hell was that?" and argue about it in comments. She'd kept a duplicate, or pulled something out of the buffer memory. I forgot how many cameras she had. That was my mistake. My phone lit up that day. Hunters, buddies, a couple of the guys I'd flown with. "Is this you? Did you see this? What did you really see, Jack?" The fallout came fast. The company owner didn't wait for reports or explanations. He called me into his office the morning after the clip surfaced online. Door closed, blinds half drawn. He didn't ask how I was. "You lied," he said. I didn't argue. I just told him the truth. "I destroyed the card," I said. "I didn't realize she had other cameras rolling. That part's on me." He stood up from behind his desk, pacing like a man trying not to shout. "Do you have any idea what kind of circus this brings down on us?" he said. "We're already under review for that incident. Now we're the Bigfoot helicopters outfit. I've got clients asking if we're serious operators or a reality show." I didn't defend myself. There wasn't anything to defend. I'd known, the moment I snapped that card, that I was trading my job for peace of mind. I just hadn't expected how fast it would come due. 2 days later, I was gone. Official paperwork said mutual separation. Unofficially, I was radioactive. No operator wants a pilot tied to a viral clip and a damaged aircraft report that reads like folklore. Lena went the opposite direction. She leaned into the attention, did interviews. Some measured, some reckless. She never used my name, just called me the pilot. Said I was experienced, said I meant well, said fear made me make a bad call. Said she understood why I destroyed the footage, but that the public deserved to know what was out there. To her credit, she never released exact coordinates, just South Central Alaska, remote, accessible only by air. But that's all it takes. People talk, hunters talk, and the crew Riker ran with, they talked the most. That's how we ended up back in that valley. About 2 weeks later, the SOS ping started. One was a help signal from a hunter who stopped answering texts. The other was a full SOS that auto-routed to troopers. Same general corridor, same drainage system. Too close to be coincidence. Weather shut everything down for 2 days. Low cloud, wind, snow up high, ground teams pushed in from trailheads, but progress was slow. By the time a narrow flight window opened, tension was already high. I say we carefully. I didn't work for that company anymore, but my name was all over the original incident report. I knew the approach, and troopers have long memories. Maya called me at home. "Jack," she said, voice tight. "Troopers are requesting you for SAR assist. Same corridor as before." "I'm grounded," I said. "Company cut me loose." "Yeah," she said, "they're being leaned on. Your aircraft's repaired. They want eyes in that valley, and you're the only pilot who knows it and is current. If you say no, someone else goes in blind." That's what got me off the couch, someone else going in blind. When I got to the hangar, the mood was different. No jokes. No casual talk. SAR guys were kitted up, quiet, focused. Ropes, helmets, packs. A trooper sergeant, when recognized from the fuel cache, was there too. "You sure you're up for this?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I'm going anyway." The plan on paper was simple. Fly into the mouth of the valley. Stay as high as the ceiling allowed. Visual sweep. If we saw a clean landing zone away from the trees, we'd put boots on the ground. If anything fell off, we'd back out. In reality, I knew something else. If the valley didn't want us there, it would let us know. The flight in felt wrong from the start. Same low clouds sitting on the ridges. Same drizzle. Same gray. Different helicopter, same engine note. My hands went through familiar motions, but my chest felt hollow, like I was stepping back into a bad dream. The SAR guys behind me were quiet. You could feel their anticipation. They trust airframes more than skies. They've all seen what happens when you push weather. We came around the last bend and the main valley opened ahead. The clearing where we'd found Riker was off to the left, out of sight. The tree line looked the same. The river sounded the same when we cracked the intercom. "All units, 6-9er Hotel entering Search Grid Alpha," I called. Ceiling about 900 AGL. Visibility 2 miles. Beginning pass. We flew down the middle. I scanned for color. Orange, blue, smoke, anything. Halfway up, the sergeant tapped my shoulder. "See that gravel bar?" he said. "Decent LZ if we don't find better." I didn't like how close it was to the trees, but it was flat, clear of big rocks. "We'll do a hover check," I said. "I'm not committing until I feel the air." I brought us around and descended nose into the light breeze. At about 50 feet above ground, I felt it. Not wind, not rotor wash, not a thermal. The same wrongness as before. The skids were just feet above the gravel when something slammed into the tail, harder this time. The aircraft lurched, tail kicked sideways. Yaw pedals jolted like someone stomped them. Alarm screamed in my headset. "Contact, tail, I heard myself bark. Power, training took over. Dumped collective, opposite pedal, cyclic correction." The gravel blurred, then dropped away as we clawed back altitude. In the back, someone shouted. Gear clattered. A helmet hit frame. I didn't look at the tree line. I couldn't afford to. Eyes on gauges. On the horizon. On the feel of the machine. 6-9er Hotel. "Are you declaring an emergency?" Maya came over the radio, urgent now. "Affirm," I snapped. "Tail strike, unknown object. Regaining control. Aborting landing. Exiting valley." We came out low and fast, riding smoother air, not looking back. Only once we were around the bend did I breathe. In the mirror, the SAR guys' faces were pale, eyes wide. They didn't need to see what hit us. They felt it. Same pattern. Same timing. It waited until we were low. Until we were committed. Until it could make its point without killing us. Same tactic. Different day. We climbed above the terrain and headed home. No more passes. On the way out, the sergeant tapped my shoulder again, softer. "That the same valley?" he asked. "Yep, same feeling, worse." He didn't say anything after that. That flight ended my career for good. Officially, I resigned a couple months later. Unofficially, no insurer wanted a pilot who'd twice reported unknown wildlife aggression and refused to keep pushing on SAR. Some of the SAR guys understood. A few even told me, quietly, they were glad I pulled out. But paperwork doesn't care about feelings. On paper, I aborted a mission that might have saved lives. We never found the SOS origin. Ground teams were pushed back by weather and terrain. No bodies recovered, just more names on the list. Lena kept chasing the story. She tried other pilots. Most said no. A couple said yes, then backed out after seeing the valley from the air. Eventually, she went in overland, hired a guide, got dropped at a lake miles away, tried to walk in slow, no guns, just cameras. Her last message to me is still saved on my phone. She said she thought if they went in differently, it would be different. I didn't call back. When her report went overdue, I wished I had. They never found her. They found the guide's truck, some tracks, an old camp. No blood, no gear. Like they'd walked away from everything or someone took it. Officially, she's still missing. Unofficially, she's part of the story now. I don't call her brave. I don't call her foolish either. I know why she did it. She couldn't live with unanswered questions. Me? I live with them every day. I live with the memory of that orange jacket disappearing into the trees. With the sound of 2 knocks from places that shouldn't connect. With the feel of broken plastic snapping in my hands. I live knowing there's a place not that far from normal life where something big and territorial uses bodies as warnings and knows exactly how fragile helicopters are. I destroyed the footage. Most days, I don't regret it. Some nights, when a sudden noise makes my heart jump, I wonder if the world would be safer if it knew. Then I remember Riker and Lena and the rock hitting steel. And I think maybe the real danger isn't what lives in that valley. Maybe it's what we bring with us when we go looking.